Day.
Happy Sunday morning. You guys been here all weekend? Yeah. So you guys understand the struck work thing, right? Yes. All right. Unfortunately, we know that I only have one thing to talk about. So, but we can talk around it. But just so you know, I do support the strike that's happening. So I won't be arrested.
Absolutely. Well, I'm going to dive right into your TikTok. As an elder millennial, and
an elder millennial?
Else, yeah, we love that. That's great. What was the other one? It was like geriatric millennial, and I was like, please.
I like elder. It makes you seem wise.
I'm like real wise, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Just like watching your TikToks and having that moment to connect with you through TikTok, which is obviously not a face-to-face connection. It's so meaningful to so many people when you scroll through the comments. What's that been like to see?
Great. I remember I did a viral video thing a couple years ago, like a little experiment where I had been directing a music video for the 25th anniversary of a TV show. And I was like, you know what, I want to talk to my friends. You know, I don't want to talk to any kids because those weren't the people I knew 25 years ago. I was like, I want to talk to my actual people, my actual friends again. As adults, more as peers. Because the way I used to talk was very much peer-to-peer without condescending, right? So I worked very hard to sort of develop a connection with the camera that felt real, you know, in a kid-like way. And I thought, oh, it would be so much easier to do that in an adult-like way. There's less artifice, there's less that I have to do. And I thought, well, why don't we just try that, you know? We'll do what we used to do. We used to talk about shapes and colors and graham crackers and stuff. And now we'll talk about like the heaviness of this moment that we're all in. And would that work? Could I still talk to you guys? Could we still vibe, you know? And it was just an experiment. I don't think any of us knew if it would work, and we certainly didn't anticipate the response to it. And when that went bananas, I was like, why is this working? Why are people responding to this very simple, very unadorned thing? And I think that we used to talk on a TV, but now we're all on our phones all the time, right? We're entertained by our phones, so the screen is here. And we're constantly flipping through that, and we're constantly absorbing information from that. And it's designed to be quick and attention-getting and loud and fast, and to have your attention for about 15 seconds, then you're on to the next thing. And it's also, at least in that moment, the internet, and certainly what you were scrolling through, social media and everything, was pretty mean, right? Like everything was fairly mean-spirited. It was all about like aggressively promoting your opinion at the expense of someone else's feelings. And that was happening everywhere. Politically, that was happening in a big way, where it seemed to me that everybody was being as mean as possible, and it was almost a virtue. Like, haha, I was a dick. You know, and it's like, yeah, man, gotcha, trolled ya. And I think that what we ended up doing was a very respectful, care-driven, simple conversation that was about connection and respect. And it wasn't loud, and it wasn't fast, and it was about compassion and actually connecting. And I think that was a very missing thing. You know, I suspect that cut through the way it did because it was missing, because people weren't doing that. And then I was like, well, that's actually awesome. That, of course we can, you know, social media gets a lot of flack for just being kind of superficial and bad for you. And it is that, but it is a way where people can connect, and we shouldn't underestimate that. You can connect, you can make a connection. We did it. you know? You can make a connection with social media that is, as you say, meaningful, right? And so that's what I was just trying to do with the TikTok. It was like a social experiment. It was like, what can I just say, hey, what's up? And just listen. You know, one of my heroes in this world was Fred Rogers. And one thing he said, yeah, you can clap for Fred Rogers. Oh yeah, Fred. Yeah, but one of the things he said that I loved was that listening is one of the greatest gifts human beings can give to each other. And I love that because when you kind of think of listening, you think of receiving information from someone, right? Like I'm receiving information from you, but he's saying listening is a gift. I'm giving you my attention, you know? And that was literally what I was trying to do on TikTok. Was like, can I give attention on TikTok in a way that is, I guess, meaningful to some? Would it be meaningful to be that simple and completely unadorned and like to do nothing and just create space for people to be respectful on the internet? So that was it. That was the longest answer. I'm so tired.
It is nice to go on TikTok and find something wholesome. You know?
What's that?
Finding like a wholesome side of TikTok.
What do you mean by wholesome?
That it's not aggressively scary and it doesn't make you rethink everything. It just feels comforting. And I think that's what you bring to a lot of people on your TikTok. And certainly me and in the comments that I've seen.
Okay, cool. I get nervous. That word makes me nervous.
Don't get nervous.
Because I'm not particularly wholesome. I'm not. I mean, I'm not particularly the opposite either. You know what I mean? Like, I'm a pretty nice guy, but I'm not Fred Rogers in any way. Like, I'm a normal person with flaws and some wonderful stuff, just like everybody else, you know? And I always get nervous when people are like, you are especially wholesome. I'm like, no, I'm not. I get frustrated and mad, and you know what I mean? Like, so I'm like normal, not especially wholesome.
Right, and I think the way that you said it on your TikTok specifically, you said, I'm just giving you the attention we both know you deserve. And like, I don't know, during the pandemic, I was like, oh my God, thank you so much. And I feel like that's what hit for a lot of people. So not wholesome, just awesome. So let's say awesome instead. And you mentioned Fred Rogers as being one of your heroes. Was that like your first childhood hero?
Not at all.
No?
I remember my mom always said that. I don't remember loving Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood as a little kid, but my mom said, dude, like you would just sit there and absorb it. I was like, oh yeah, 3-year-old me knew, I'm gonna need this later. But, oh God, it's so hard to talk around these things. What I ended up doing in my career was an homage to Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, right? Mr. Rogers, for example, wore the same outfit every day. And that was on purpose, right? Because preschoolers need that sense of familiarity and continuity, right? Fred Rogers, you probably didn't realize this stuff if you were watching it, but the camera never cut away from Mr. Rogers, ever. Right? Normally in a TV show, if you're like, well, cool, we've been in the living room, let's go to the kitchen. Stand up and then cut and you'd be in the kitchen. But Fred Rogers, the camera would follow you, right? And you'd cross the little wall, past the fish tank, and then you'd be in the kitchen, right? The camera never left you. And another way to do that would be if you just stood still and the background moved back behind you. So there was a lot that what I ended up doing in children's media was directly based on Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. So, and I knew that, and so I would start to research him and watch him, and I've read several books. I've come to believe that he was singular on this earth and more important than children's television. I think he should be on our money. You know? Like, he may have been an avatar of the Buddha or something. I don't know. But for him, it was a ministry, right? He was out there doing it, you know, and it was deep. The things that he talked about on that show were insanely deep. Just the deepest things, and they're just as important to adults as they are to children. So it is kind of universal there. But what he did was talk to the camera, right? He talked to the camera beautifully. But what I ended up doing in my career that was, I think, different from Fred Rogers is we listened to the camera, right? We ostensibly made it seem that I could hear you, which was an addition to it.
Nice. And so if he wasn't your childhood hero, do you have one?
Yeah, Rocky Balboa. When I was 5, I used to do push-ups in my room. I was like, and it wasn't even so much the movie, it was the music that I loved. And it wasn't even the it was that, but it was also like that I just remember loving that album, and we had the record, and I would play it in my room, and I was so inspired by this character that was indomitable, even though he was kind of a loser, you know, and he had something inside of him that couldn't be broken, you know, just cool. I don't know why I was just so into that as a really little kid, you know, and I still love that movie. They get progressively worse as it keeps going, but that first film is special and really small and simple and beautiful. It's a beautiful movie, actually.
Well, it's nice that you mentioned music, because actually it takes me to my next question. You are a very accomplished musician, and everyone clap for that.
I don't know about that.
Well, I don't know if a lot of people know this. They should know this. Is it true that one of your songs, or a song you had a part in, is featured in a very popular show that we won't mention?
Well, I think I can mention that because it's music.
Mention it.
Do we know that? Is Zach out there?
Yeah.
I can say that, right?
You say the name of the show.
I can't.
We could probably hit.
Okay, there was a show that was very popular for a while about nerds and the genesis of the universe. And after that show had a spin-off. And I wrote and sang the theme song to that show. Is that okay?
There, we got a thumbs up. That was good. Good walk around. Yeah, I thought that was so interesting that not a lot of people knew that, but you're kind of in every aspect of popular culture, and especially with that song and with childhood.
Everywhere.
It's everywhere. So are you still working on your music?
I just started writing music again. I've never stopped playing music, but I'm just starting to feel songs again, you know. I made a record in 2003, 20 years ago, with my favorite band at the time, which was a crazy band from Oklahoma City called the Flaming Lips. And they had made a record in 1999 called The Soft Bulletin that completely rearranged my brain. We all have that record in our lives, I hope. People who are sensitive to music, you know, we all have that album that explains our soul to the universe, you know what I mean? That just rearranges your entire being, and that was mine. And that was around the time where I was screwing around with Pro Tools and started to write my own music, and I stalked and found their producer and sent him a demo, and he called me back and he's like, "Wait, so you're the dude on that show?" And I was like, "Yeah." He said, "Well, I listened to your demo only to make fun of it, but 3 of these songs are not bad at all. Like, what did you want to do with this?" I was like, "I don't know, I just wanted you to hear it, man." And he said, "Well, I have 2 weeks off coming up if you want to come up to the studio and we can work on them." I was like, "Yes, I want that." So I went up there and the Flaming Lips were there. And they were recording Yoshimi Battles the Pink Robots, which was their follow-up record. And I was like, oh, you're here, you're my heroes. And within 10 minutes, we were like on the floor, like playing guitar, like laughing. We became friends immediately. And they were like, well, shit, one of those songs ain't bad. You want me to put drums on that? I'm like, yes. And so we just started working together, and that was great fun. And they say never meet your heroes, but I did, and it was awesome. So we're still friends, and they took me on tour with them, and I opened for them for their Yoshimi Battles the Pink Robots tour in the UK, which was a crazy dream come true. And I'll tell you a quick story about it though, which was really interesting. I was very excited about that. I had never performed live music, really. And so basically my first series of shows were in front of 5,000 people opening for my favorite band, right? I was very excited to do that. And at my first show, I was on stage, and I started playing, and like 5,000 people rushed to the stage. I'm like, oh, that's it, that was easy. I was on Kids TV, now I'm a rock star, cool. That was I was like, this is gonna be great, my life is perfect. And by the end of the first song, they all went to the bar. And they never came back for the whole tour. And at the end of the tour, the lead singer of that band, a guy named Wayne, really wise person with a really thick accent. He's like, Steve Burns, come to my house, I want to talk to you about something, I'll have a cup of coffee. So I went to his house, and he's like, well, that didn't work at all. I was like, I know. He's like, it was kind of painful to watch. I was like, I know, man, I know. He's like, well, I'm gonna tell you why. I'll tell you what I think happened. He's like, in my experience, people come to rock shows for 3 reasons. One is to, party, get drunk, or something. Have fun. 2 is to meet a guy or a girl, right? 3 is to watch human beings believe in themselves in ways that they cannot. I was like, yeah, right. He's like, you don't have that 3rd thing. But he was 100% right. And by the way, that's a good friend who will do that for you. And he was like, but that's my fault. I plucked you out of nothing. You didn't have any experience, threw you on the stage. You weren't ready for it. It took me 20 years to get good at this, whatever. So that was a real eye-opening thing. Like, you have to earn stuff. People can't just give you that. And belief in yourself is like a learned and earned experience. You can't just walk out there and go from mountaintop to mountaintop, So I always appreciated that honesty and wisdom from him, But then my song was on a TV show, so
I was
whatever.
gonna say, you still did great. So coming to these conventions, do you have any memorable fan moments? Because
Oh my
you
God.
have so many, range of fans here.
I'll tell you my favorite one. I'll try to get through it without. I used to do a lot of work with the Make-A-Wish organization. And where were we, Zach? Pittsburgh. And this guy showed up, and he was like, hey, do you remember me? And I'm like, no. And he showed me a picture, and it was Make-A-Wish kid. And he's like, hey man, I made it.
That's amazing.
I was like, hey, I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad you're still here. And now we're friends on Instagram. There was actually 2 Wish kids at that event. That was, it's hard to describe how special that was. And it's just difficult to describe, But that wasn't just one of my favorite convention moments. That was a core memory for sure.
Well, Well, that's amazing. Thank you for sharing that with us. That's wonderful. Thank you all for being here, by the way. I just would love to hear some questions if there's anyone. Unfortunately, I can't see the microphone, so if you want to start lining up.
Can't sing songs from that show, can't talk directly about that show, like you get it, right?
You guys, you'll be great.
All right, which side?